In GTD, it is a spin-to-win scenario for Trent Hindman and Danny Famal.
Wayne Taylor Racing take a victory in the Lamborghini Huracan with their big gamble on fuel.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Matt Yocum. Welcome to another edition of the IMSA Endurance Hour podcast. And it seems like the theme of 2025 is a season of first. Nearly every event, we've got a first-time winner or someone who returns to victory lane, which seems like it's almost a first because of a gap. And Canadian Tire Motorsports Park didn't disappoint, especially if you're Wayne Taylor Racing. And we're joined now by Trent Hindman, who went to victory lane at CTMP in GTD. And Trent, I've got to tell you, I don't know what boxes you want to start checking in all of the challenges that you and Danny had to overcome to score that win.
Matt, first off, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Obviously we're here for good reason. And those bad luck boxes that we've been checking throughout the year, fortunately we can throw that box out the window because we finally got one done. Not without the brilliant strategy call of our guys on the pit box. So Dave, Antoine, and Travis, they just knocked it out of the park. They Coach Danny and I threw everything that we needed to do to save energy and make it to the end, and real team victory there. So fortunate that everything came together and we finally got ourselves a win this year.
Well, when you look at some of the challenges throughout the race, it wasn't a cakewalk. Danny's behind the wheel. He's got a really bad vibration, starting to lose the feel, in different parts of his body. And then you make the driver swap. He salvages the car in a great spot, hands it off to you. And then it was almost like watching a quarterback, in a way, in the handoff, fumble the ball with the running back when there was an issue with the drink bottle. So I think we're going to have to start figuring out some kind of Iron Man nickname for you because you drove your entire stint without water.
Yeah, that definitely was ideal and not part of the plan. You
And
also
it was
don't.
not a cool
No.
Canadian day either. I mean,
Well,
it felt
right.
like it was 110.
It was quite warm, quite humid. Big rainstorm had passed through just before the race, so you have that, and then the sun come right back out, and the humidity was pretty intense as it does up in the Northeast U.S. and obviously in and around the Toronto area this time of year. So definitely made it challenging. But by no means during the race was it much of a concern from my side. I knew that asking for it was probably going to raise some eyebrows, and it did. It certainly did. Appreciate my team for caring about me that much to have the concern. But no, we were all right to the end. This is what we train for. This is what we do. So you can make it through those tougher stints and still be on it. But yeah, I mean, just crazy day the way everything went down. And you mentioned before about Danny's start and him having the vibration and bit of wheel damage. This whole race was like metaphorical for what motor racing is. All the highs and lows. We experience every single emotion you possibly can through that 2 hours and 40 minutes. From Danny, fighting for second, third at the start, to us dropping to the back from contact with another car, no fault of Danny's own, to then us having this kind of nail biter of a finish there on whether or not we're going to make it on fuel or have a chance of making it on fuel. The whole day was just completely crazy.
Well, you're behind the wheel, and so many folks at home watching or listening, they've been in that situation. On their car, they hit how many miles left, and it's flashing 2, it's flashing 1, it's flashing 0. You can probably creep into a gas station. When you're sitting there lap after lap and you're on this fuel mileage save mode, how close were you? Because you've got, as you mentioned, the strategy team, they made a great play, but you also had to execute behind the wheel. How much fuel saving were you in? Coasting. What were you doing behind the wheel to try to make those numbers work?
From the get-go, from I want to say the first restart of the race, we kind of knew that this was our play. This was kind of our only play at trying to get a result. So, the call was made pretty early on that this is the route we're going to go. And we frankly have not much to lose, right? It was all to gain, not a ton to lose. So might as well go for it. We needed to get lucky with a few yellows there. Really, one yellow, one longer period yellow was going to make sure that we were safe, along with quite a bit of fuel save there. So we did get that yellow. So after that point, the race could have gone green till the end, and we would have been okay. Now that doesn't necessarily uh, g- um, consider the fact that you have two extremely fast, or more than two extremely fast cars restarting behind you that are in a championship fight and ready to go. So um, once we shifted beyond the fuel concerns, it was now down to, hey, what do we need to do to hold off a couple of really quick cars behind us? It would have been nice to see how that would have shaken out. At all the confidence in the world in our Wayne Taylor Racing Lamborghini there, but you know, just with the way the day went, we did get fortunate at the end, and maybe fortunately and unfortunately didn't have to see how that one landed.
Well, when you look at the day, and you've got to be proud of the fact of just the execution in every single area, everybody, had to basically line up and almost be perfect with whatever their task was.
Hmm.
The folks that go over the wall, you two behind the wheel, the trio on top of the pit box, everybody did as Bill Belichick, always used to say, just do your job,
Yep.
and your gang all did their job.
They did, and they do week in, week out. That's where this year up to this point at CTMP was kind of, so I don't want to say disheartening, because at the end of the day, we're motor racing. We're very fortunate to be doing what we're doing. But you yourself as the driver, but the entire team, everybody, their individual effort, they all put so much behind this. It is disappointing when we do come up short, especially when the execution is spot on the way it has been for a large majority of the year from all sides. So have things perpetually not go your way is, despite doing what at least you believe and perceive to be the right things, that makes it that much more difficult to keep the spring in your step, keep your head down, and keep focused. So um, maybe easier said than done for, or maybe easier said for drivers, but for sure for the guys going over the wall, the guys sitting up on the pit box, it's easier said than done. So the fact that things did fall their way, they did execute the way they have been all year, and we did have a bit of fortune on our side this weekend. I think it just goes to show that, yeah, we have been doing the right things. It's just a matter of, hey, racing is going to throw a ton of variables out of your control your way most of the time, and you've got to make do with what you've got.
It was Danny's first win in WeatherTech and your first win in, 6 years. Did it almost feel like, even though you knew it wasn't, but the celebration and the level of accomplishment, the fact that of the road that you've been on to get in that position, can you describe the difference between your first career win and your second?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's unbelievable just because of how much transpires over a 6 month period, let alone a 6 year period, right? And that's not necessarily a statistic that I'm proud of, I'll say, waiting 6 years between GTD wins, but it's certainly not for a lack of effort or a lack of results, really, with any of the co-drivers or organizations that I've been very fortunate to work with in the past. They've all been strong. We've all been quick. We've all been right there, been on the podium quite a few times, but what it takes to win a race in WeatherTech at all levels is, yeah, certainly a bit of fortune, but also a lot of coordination, a lot of effort. You just need all the stars to align at the right time in order to execute a result like that, or achieve a result like that. So to me, it was just 6 years of a lot of things that were like, hey, we're close, we're close, we're close. Just 6 years of a bunch of things finally coming together. And now the challenge is, hey, how do we make this a consistent result? How do we make this just not, all right, now we're going to wait 6 more years till the next victory? How do we make this a week in, week out? We're the threat. We are a threat for a win or multiple wins. So that's the challenge now. But certainly it's like the, proverbial monkey off your back sort of thing.
Well, and the thing is, if you look at that 6-year gap, you didn't just take a break from the sport and take a hiatus, go on vacation. You were down in Michelin Pilot.
Hmm.
You walked away with some championship hardware, a bunch of race wins and certainly some great times as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fortunate to across a number of different series and a number of different years. And look, there still even was success in WeatherTech, um, in between the two times that Allan Brynjolfsson and I were able to stand on the podium with the Volt program in 2023. Those were very special moments. I mean, there are legitimately races in this sport where you might not stand on the top box, but it still feels like a victory for the team as a whole. And there was certainly plenty of that. But at the end of the day, it is nice to walk in the front door now that I've been home for a week since this event and see a first place trophy with GTD written on it when I walk into the house. So yeah, that's there's a lot of good, a lot of hard lessons learned over the last couple of years in all sorts of categories leading to this point. But this race really felt like a culmination of all of that at once.
Well, it's been a pretty busy 7 months for you, and also another first for you, the first win since you and Chelsea got married, New Year's Eve.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And she was starting to give me some stick about it, you know? Like, what did, is this like bad luck? What are we doing? No, it's, fortunately on that side, uh, since before we've been married and even now, not much has changed, which is great. Dude, I'm so lucky to have the most supportive partner and one who's never had any experience in racing before she met me and then took to it like a duck to water. Like absolutely follows everything, live timing. She's got like the IMSA results page with all the sector times and everything pulled up like hardcore into it, which is awesome. And it certainly makes my life a lot easier at home because she understands the sort of ebbs and flows, especially during the tough races, during the tough moments, right? That's where, the strength of a partnership to me really seems to show because I come home sometimes and I'm not the nicest guy to be around when it's been a bad race. And the fact that there's just this undeniable level of support there is really something special. But yes, to finally have a race victory after 7 months of us being a married couple is certainly a nice box to check off.
Well, I will say this, that you really blow everyone away with your level of attention to detail. And the fact that you had gone to the local municipality there and said, "Look, I'm getting married New Year's Eve. Do you think you could fire off some fireworks for me?" And only Mother Nature, put that fire out, so to speak. But you
Yeah.
had everything all lined up for the perfect night, but still, it was perfect enough.
The dirty little secret there is the fact that I kind of just did that by dumb luck, and I can tell her all I want, or I can tell my our families all that I want. That hey, I'm this great guy at planning. Not necessarily. No, thanks to the Long Branch taxpayer, we were gonna have a New Year's fireworks show. Just where we were getting married, the way the town does it. It would have been a cool little detail, but we had a thunderstorm instead, a New Year's thunderstorm, which is very rare in the state of New Jersey. So I suppose that counts as our fireworks. But no matter what, it was still an unbelievable day. So fortunate.
Well, I mean, it was your tax dollars at work,
It,
so you
that it
sort
was.
of you sort of paid for that. I
In a
spent
way, yeah.
yeah, I spent 7 years working my summers with IROC, and one summer I actually spent a block off from the ocean, about a half a mile from the boardwalk, and the Garden State it's really like the UP of Michigan, or at least up north in Michigan during the summer. It's just the weather, the beauty, the beaches, it's incredible. And so I had a fantastic summer there. But the one thing that you learn right away is that modifieds are king in that area. So how did jump into carts and not jump into the modifieds and go the short track rank?
I think in New Jersey, right, especially Wall Stadium, which is 10 minutes away from where I live now. Kind of a legendary place up in the Northeast. And yeah, modifieds are the thing up there. And I still have yet to get behind the wheel of one. I'd very much like to. Looks like a fun time. But I think everybody generally starts on a very similar path in terms of competition karting and road racing. And then as opportunities may open up or close, whatever it might be, some folks go the path of late models, that sort of thing. Others go the path of modifieds, and look, I was fortunate to be able to get some scholarships to get my way into the Skip Barber Racing School and go the single seater path for a bit. So um, it, I think it just all depended on what opportunity opened up at that time. I think if there was a more of an opportunity to get into circle track racing, I probably would have gone that route. But I don't necessarily come from a racing background. My family was never involved in the sport before we got into karting, just sort of as a hobby. Because frankly, I wasn't very good at any stick and ball sports, so that seemed to make a decent bit of sense. But either way, um, we were just kind of going along with wherever the wind took us, so to say. And yeah, with that said, sprint car racing, modified racing, stock cars up here in the Northeast, it's a huge thing. In hindsight, maybe in a different world, yeah, I would have ended up down that path. But fortunate to be where I'm at now, for sure.
Well, you look at the opportunities that have been presented, and you go back to when the racing bug bit you. Was it an easy sell on your mom? Hard sell on your mom?
I think at first the hard sell was motocross because that's what I started in. And right before I was at the age where you can actually start racing 65s in the state of New Jersey, she put a hard no to it. Probably rightfully so. Motocross, I love it. I love it to this day. I mean, me and Danny and all the WTR guys, we try to get ourselves riled up about Supercross every year. So it's a good time, or every race. So it's a good time. But I love the sport. Probably in hindsight, a better move just because the injury rate is so high, unfortunately. But of course, what's the next best thing? Well, we're gonna go-kart racing because they did it in the parking lot right across, the street from where the motocross track was. So um, there was no rhyme or reason to any of this. There was no long-term plan to any of it. I think that's maybe what sold my mom, like, this is a temporary thing. They'll do it for a little bit. It's fine. My he's always been a car guy. He's always liked to tinker with things. So, um, hey, they're gonna jump in, do this for a little bit, hop out, and that'll be it. So now, man, 20 years past that point, and she's still just as nervous as ever and reluctant as ever to watch a motor race. So it's I suppose it's just the way it all went down.
Well, I always love how you're extremely humble about your success on the track and your upbringing. You didn't have, like some people, oh, so and so's got a suitcase money, and so they're able to fund everything. You have been a grinder, like in gambling, like a poker player. Man, you've always got a chip on the table, so you're still in the game. And that has been your path with the highs and lows. And at what point was there a section of your career where you're like, I don't think this is going to go on, and your parents are like, this might be it for us on the financial side? Was there a point early on when it was, I don't know if this is going to be able to happen?
Yeah, so, specifically at the end of my time in single seaters before going GT racing, yeah, we were at a crossroads because I really didn't have a good year, my last year of racing F2000 cars. Everybody kind of hedges their bets on winning a title, and you have a couple races not go your way, and now you're out of that running, and now you're not getting that scholarship. So, between some sponsors that didn't stick with us, yeah, it came to a point of how do we continue doing this? Because there, at least at that point, the decision from collectively from a family point of view is, hey, maybe we can try to make a career out of this. So they went as far as selling their house and selling their house to get my foot in the door to go GS racing. And then that year, John Edwards and I were able to win the GS championship. So in a way, in a very very committed way, it worked out. But that's not that's extremely abnormal. And I think about it now as I get a bit older, and Chelsea and I are thinking about starting a family ourselves. That motivation, that dedication to your son or daughter's activity is pretty unheard of. It's incredibly special. And we just talked before about how, was my mom all in or all out? Well, I think that goes to show that she certainly was all in, even though it was a bit nerve wracking for her in more ways than one. So, um, my parents are still not at the racetrack as much as I'd love to see them there, but they're still coming to enough races. They're still fan favorites, so to say, and they're very unique folks, and I'm very fortunate and very blessed to have them.
So they went all in on you
Hmm.
and sold the house. You've got the funds to race. Is that even more pressure on yourself to produce? Because not only are you trying to get a job, keep a job in a highly competitive arena,
Hmm.
now you've got the pressure that your folks have sold their house to try to help you keep your dream alive.
Well, to be a bit lighthearted here, Matt, I'm only smart enough to drive in circles for a living, so that's not saying a whole lot. So, the awareness on my side maybe wasn't fully there. No, in reality, there yes, there is an inherent level of pressure that comes with that commitment that you see your parents making, in order to make your dream a reality, and I think that's sort of molded, um, who I am today in terms of I'd like to think I've got a pretty decent work ethic and just ability to bear down and be disciplined when I need to be uh, be able to put the work in to achieve what we can achieve. So without that experience, I don't think I would have taken this whole process, this whole journey, and dealt with the tougher moments and tougher years, really, the way I have. So more than pressure, I think it created just an environment of determination and almost validation in a way that, hey, like, yeah, there are people in this world that have that level of faith in me. Um, so I have to make the most of it. I'm being given this opportunity. I have to make the absolute most of it. And I'd like to think that over the last 10 years since that's happened, we have made good on it.
When you go back and you look at your racing resume at times and you start to go through the different levels of success and all the unique chapters, and you go back to 2017 when you were with Wayne Taylor Racing and you won in the Super Trofeo car, was it almost like going home again in a way? A Lambo, WTR again?
Yeah, one of the coolest things about coming back to Wayne Taylor Racing this year, after, well, I don't want to say all those years ago, right? 2017 is really not the too distant
It wasn't
past.
that long ago.
No, it wasn't, and that's the scary thing, how many things happen in such a short period of time in sport, in motor racing as a whole. It's just crazy the amount that could happen in such a short amount of time. But what was really nice about coming back to Wayne Taylor Racing was the fact that the core group was all the same. It was all the same group of guys and gals that I had worked with back in 2016, 17, 18 when I was doing Super Trofeo with them. So that added a ton of confidence. And already it wasn't I when you're the new guy on a new team, and I've been fortunate to do this enough, when you're the new guy on a new team, yeah, you might have, some results, some prior races that they may or may not have paid attention to that sort of give the impression of who you are before you arrive. You still have to earn the team's faith and their trust and build that relationship and that bond with those guys and gals that you may be working with. That was already there with Wayne Taylor Racing because it was all mostly the same group, and we've all kept up pretty close over the last well, since 2017 till now. So it was a very seamless transition back in. Um, and that's something that I think is relatively rare in this sport, but something that I'm very fortunate to have had. And we're continuing to build that relationship. That process, no matter how long you've known or been with the same group, so much evolves so quickly in this sport where that you're always building those relationships the further along you go.
Well, in a way, it's almost like a unicorn situation, and it's rare that you see a driver and a team split and then a few years later get back together. And like you mentioned, the same core group is there. The communication, the chemistry is all there, and it produced up at, CTMP. But I think that says a lot about, your maturation as a driver. Where do you feel like you've grown from 2017 to now?
It's hard to say because it's like I look at photos and listen to, interviews or watch races from that long ago. And again, it's really not that long ago. And it, it's it's like seeing a different person. It really is. Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way by any means. It's just, a lot has happened in that period of time, both personally and professionally. So it's fun to go back and watch and see sort of, some things that I do still recognize in myself, but also think about, hey, we have come a long way. And hopefully in 7 years from now I'm looking back and saying the same thing. Um, it's fun to me. One of the real motivating factors of being a part of the sport is just seeing that personal progression and it just personal development. And I know most sports will do this to athletes and coaches and in our case mechanics and engineers alike, but this sport really I think forces folks to become introspective and constantly refine and constantly try to become better versions of themselves. And I'd like to think that we've been on that path for the last 7 years.
Yeah, I jumped on a Reddit message board and I saw a couple different posts, and it was about liveries. And there were several comments that people really like the livery on the 45, with the Dex colors, but just the mirror, the red, the black, you name it. They just like that color scheme.
Yeah.
And, it's definitely one of those that stand out. You're like, wow, that's pretty smoking hot.
Yeah, I mean a chrome Lamborghini, um, it definitely hits. It hits in a good way. Not not literally, I mean figuratively, right? It's cool to see that it's a fan favorite. And that's like 100% Graham. He's got the eye for liveries and I mean he's a pretty artistic guy in that sense. So all credit to him. Frankly, I think to Danny and I, uh the car is as quick as it looks, and that's what matters to us. So, it could be whatever livery we want, as long as it's quick and upfront and has the capability of winning races, man, we're gonna drive it. So, looks even better though when the car is matching the speed that it's got on track. And I've heard this in the past too. If you look good, you play good. And I think certainly at CTMP we had both.
Yep, it's all a mindset and it's all about preparation and taking care of the little insignificant things so you can focus on the biggest task ahead. But what is it about you and colorful race cars? Because you and Allan Brynjolfsson, you had that day glow yellow. It can be 10 o'clock at night and that thing is going to stick out big time.
Yeah.
You've had some colorful cars through the years.
It's fun to look back and see, some of the liveries, some of the just the variation of equipment. Even Alan and I had gotten a drive from, day one together in GS to, end of 2023 at Petit Le Mans Road Atlanta. Just the range of cars that saw that Volt livery is pretty impressive. And then even further back from that, right? Some of the other GTD cars that I've been fortunate to drive, the Super Trofeo cars of Wayne Taylor Racing. I can't necessarily recall a race car that's looked bad or maybe unappealing that I've been fortunate to sit behind the wheel of. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. But either way, I'd like to keep that streak alive.
So when you look at your time with Allan, and incredible businessman,
Mhm.
super top shelf, genuine guy.
Mhm.
He and his wife Trish, last October they celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary, and what a great team they are. And but when you were paired up with him, you were his driver coach in one way, but yet he was your life coach in another.
Yeah.
It really seemed like the perfect match.
Yeah, for sure. He he taught me a ton just about how to work within a team, how to manage yourself within an organization, and then just sort of he provided an example that was very strong in terms of where I'd like to be, when I'm in my late 40s and 50s and so on. So obviously my parents provided the example of all examples to me, and my in-laws do too now. But Alan and Trish, they provided much more than just an opportunity to race and an opportunity uh, to earn a living. They really showed me how to grow as an individual. So that time that Alan and I had spent together, also 7 years, which I think is pretty pretty outstanding in this sport to be sharing a car with one person for that long. It's really a special time because there was a lot of personal growth there for a variety of reasons. But they were there front and center for all of it, and very fortunate. Yeah, again, not just for the opportunity to drive, but also the opportunity to grow with them.
And his work ethic to be behind the wheel and to not give up time. I mean, he made some, stellar life choices
He did.
that made him that much better. He changed his diet, lost some weight, changed his workout program. And that had to be a motivator for you. But also, as you're going through your stage of life, it's another example of the ends justify the means, effort
Mhm.
equals results.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to be a part of that process with him and see that, you know, there was a lot of effort on my side at home on how do I communicate certain, you know, driving techniques or whatever it might be, mentality that you have when you're racing other cars. How do I convey that message? And even still, I can certainly do more in terms of improving on that. But trying to make w- my thought processes make sense to somebody else, especially who's just in a totally different phase of life than I am, with different goals and aspirations, whatever it might be, within the sport itself too. That was a challenge. That was one of the areas where, yeah, working together with Alan, I was forced to grow and learn and adapt. But seeing him go from, like, kind of taking this pretty nonchalant, sort of laissez-faire attitude to, you know, prior to the Rolex 24 in 2023, I think he just randomly got up one morning and decided to run a half marathon. Like that's pretty damn impressive. And to think just, all right, maybe something that I said along the line maybe sparked an idea that this is what we need to do in order to be competitive. I do take some pride in that. So lot I'm certainly not recommending to people that before you do a 24-hour motor race, go run a half a marathon. I know people will do that, Jordan Taylor specifically, that guy's a wild man, but, yeah, just to maybe have a positive impact on the path of somebody's life is, it's a good feeling.
So you talked about Jordan, you talked about the half marathon and the Ironman competitions, and it seems like everybody in the paddock, they've got a bike, they're doing cycling on the side, which really mirrors the cycling arena mirrors what drivers go through behind the wheel
Mhm.
because of massive, heart rates and the calories burned. But I don't know anyone who can copy your workout program, no matter where they live, especially because you're on the Jersey Shore in Monmouth County and you're involved with the US Life Saving Association. And when you dive in and you see the pictures and you learn more about the competitions, I mean, that seems like a double Ironman.
It's I think it's down to each his own, right? And it's nice to maybe spread the word in the racing world that New Jersey is in all spray tans and hair gel. We do have a very, very strong and intense, surf culture and surf life saving culture in New Jersey, especially along the northern half of the Jersey Shore. Well, southern half too. I mean, all of New Jersey. It's you've got incredible athletes up and down our 130 miles of coastline here. Um, and it's also where surf rowing had kind of taken shape. It's the genesis of United States Life Saving Association as we know it today, and even the U.S. Coast Guard to some extent, kind of originated in and around Long Branch, New Jersey, in the late 19th century. So, the history behind it, it's been here all along. It's very neat to be a part of it. But just like, all the guys and gals who use cycling, for example, as their main training tool for racing. I'm just fortunate enough to live close to an ocean to where, hey, I can hop in a surf boat and go row and work all the same, not just physical demands, but all the same mental demands that maybe we're going to see in a race car. There's certainly um, a mental challenge in dealing with swell, current, tide, wind out on the open ocean, and it's what I have been fortunate to fall into in terms of training, but there's no, right or wrong way to do any of this.
Well, you look at what parts of the body, when you're rowing, you're riding the surf in, the entire competition, the entire training process. When you look at, cycling, you can see, with your, Whoop band or your data watch, the different numbers that come back. When you're doing this, what do you feel like it benefits different parts of the body?
So it's all very similar, right? For example, I think anybody who's into cycling or into running, or even in my case into rowing, you become a data hound, and now I find myself wearing a Garmin and a heart rate strap when I'm driving the race car because I want to track, I want to record. Hey, was I physically recovered enough for this race, or what do I need to do to recover afterwards? For example, the race in CTMP, 2 hours with no water was a little bit much, but still, it gave me an idea of, hey, if this is a quote unquote extreme scenario, what do I need to do to be better prepared for it? So now, next time I'm in the boat, or I'm sure the same is happening for folks on the bike and so on. You're tailoring your training more and more to make sure that you're not only meeting the demands but exceeding the demands of what an IMSA race may be. But at the end of the day, there's not much that's going to be able to prepare you for, a double stint or more at the 12 hours of Sebring or Rolex 24 at Daytona. That it's a level of intensity and really stress that I think is unmatched in most sports. So, but you do the best you can at home to prepare for those moments.
What did the data show when you got home and you started going back through and looking at your day? What were some of the big numbers that stood out to you?
So in a 2 hour period there in the car, calories burned was about 2,000. Peak heart rate was about 190, if I recall correctly, but the average was about 165 for that 2 hour period, which you're hearing the term zone two thrown out quite a bit. And I'm sure anybody watching this who's an actual professional in terms of training people, designing training programs for folks, um, they're gonna correct me for sure for either speaking incorrectly, but you're hearing that term thrown around a lot. And I guess the rule of thumb, at least from what I've read, is 180 minus your age. That's your zone two heart rate. That's sort of your happy zone to train and do a majority of your workload throughout a training week. So to see a race, see that elevated heart rate beyond that sort of comfort zone, I guess I'll say, for that long, yeah, it makes me come back and say, all right, I need to reevaluate here and maybe tailor my training a little bit differently. Maybe I have to do some more VO2 max work to make sure that I've got gas in the tank at the end of that hard 2 hour stint when it's very hot and humid out. So certainly a lot of unpacking to come from that side, but for the most part, this is the beauty of this sport. You can go, you can have a race, you can analyze the data, whether it's yourself, whether it's the race car, whether it's your strategy, and make adjustments for your next outing.
Well, if you look at an endurance race, and if that situation had happened, at Sebring compared to CTMP, where you had your stint, the numbers might be even greater. But when you got home and you jumped on the scale, and you guys, you're always so cut, you're tip top shape. You make us normal human beings go, oh my God, look at how in shape they are. But when you got home, how much water weight did you lose? Did it
No.
surprise you? Was it normal?
So by the time I got home, I was able to rehydrate by quite a bit, but certainly in the moment, getting out of the race car, it felt like a bad weight cut. I'm not that I've ever done one, but been a fan of combat sports for a lot of my life, and I've seen firsthand what athletes will put themselves through in order to achieve, their target weight to make a weight class for, whatever, an MMA fight, a jiu-jitsu match, whatever it might be. Um, and if I had any idea of what those athletes feel like at the end of that weight cut, I'd imagine it's somewhere around maybe what I was feeling by the end of most sport. Not to that same extreme as they do, but certainly it gave me a taste and kind of reminded me that, yeah, I don't know if combat sports are necessarily my thing for that very reason of how rough those weight cuts are. But and to put a number to it, it's hard for me to say. If I had to guess, it was anywhere from 5 to 6 pounds of water weight loss.
Have you done any kind of combat training?
I have. So I was fortunate to train in Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu for 7 years, and then picked up rowing. And just from a time perspective, also from an injury prevention perspective, felt like it was the best route to move forward. But certainly learned a lot in that time, getting choked by other people. That'll certainly teach you something about yourself and humble you before you say the wrong thing to the wrong person.
But did the hand-eye coordination, because of, being in combat and all of the moves and, the quick, dishes here or there trying to get in position, does that carry over to all the hand-eye coordination that you experience behind the wheel because everything moves so lightning fast?
I I think, yeah, in a sense, but the bigger thing to me was always not just the physical aspect. Again, you're trying to find things that, yeah, match the same physical stress that you experience behind the wheel of a race car, but it's also a function of trying to work the same cognitive processes as well. So that's where with rowing, it's all right. We're dealing with the ocean. It's unrelenting. It's never going to give you a reprieve. Very much the same way a race stint will. Well, at least in combat sports, my experience was stress inoculation. There is not much more of a stressful environment that I've ever experienced outside of, you know, racing in the rain at night or an extreme scenario in the race car, something like that. Um, there's not much more of a stressful scenario than actually having to fight another human being. Now, I've never done, an amateur fight, professional fight, anything like that, but certainly sparring sessions in the gym, yeah, it gets pretty intense, and learning how to deal and manage that stress, especially when somebody's trying to maybe not injure you because a good training partner is not going to do that, but certainly trying to get the upper hand on you is is a way to learn that ability to mitigate the effects of stress.
So what you're saying is that you're a lover, not a fighter.
I would very much like to think so. So you learn very quickly when you do get into a gym like that, whether whether you really want confrontation or not. And at least in my experience, I learned very quickly that, yeah, you're going to avoid confrontation at all costs. Because frankly, you don't know what anybody else may or may not know. And I'll tell you, my first day ever learning how to wrestle and do any sort of jujitsu technique, there was an individual who's quite a lot smaller than me, a female. I got submitted, I think 10 or 15 times within a 3-minute round. So yeah, people with their capability and what they know is very impressive. And you as an individual, just walking around the street, you don't know what other people know. So best to steer clear, in my opinion.
Well, you mentioned the fumble with the water bottle. What's been the craziest thing that has happened to you while you've been behind the wheel?
The water bottle's certainly up there. It is certainly up there. Not necessarily in terms of crazy, but just in terms of maybe a level of discomfort. Certainly wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't necessarily a bad scenario. I've got to say, maybe not even so much crazy, but just the most discomfort that I've ever experienced in a race car was the Rolex 24. I want to say it was 2017. It was my first one. I was in a LMPC car, surprisingly. First time I'd ever driven a prototype of any sort. And that 24 was marred with rain. Like the whole I don't know how much of the race was run in the wet, but a lot of it was, especially at night. I was kind of the younger guy on the team, and so therefore I was given the graveyard shift, which I've now come to know and love. But in an open cockpit prototype around Daytona, it was very cold. It was raining, and I think I was in the car for about 2.5 or 3 hours. That yeah, that was a pretty painful one. But first Rolex 24 I've ever done. I'm gonna take whatever opportunity I can get, and I'd absolutely do it again.
Oh, people have no idea when they go, "Oh, it's cold up here in Wisconsin," or "It's cold up here on the UP in Michigan." When you get rain and it is near freezing conditions in Daytona, it's a whole 'nother level of discomfort.
It is. That humidity just goes right through you. And you know as well as anybody else, you've spent a lot of time on the ground at Daytona. Yeah, it gets cold. It gets cold really quick, and you don't think about it because hey, you're in Florida. But the northeast coast of Florida is certainly no joke when it comes to weather in January.
So, looking ahead, final stretch run to Road Atlanta, prognosticate, you've got the win under your belt, and so many times when teams can get over that plateau, it's almost like the floodgates open. Looking at where this team has grown over the past 7 months, the races that are left ahead, where do you feel like are gonna be good tracks for you and Danny?
I think we can make all of them good, right? CTMP was not expected to be a great racetrack for us, just all things considered. Yet we come away with a race win. And there's certainly more to winning WeatherTech races than just having the fastest car. Of course, that helps everything, and you want that all the time. But in reality, it's not going to happen. You're not going to have the perfect car underneath you all the time, 100% of the time. So that's where it's really a team effort. And I cannot harp on it enough how much of a team effort it was to pull out that result at CTMP. And it's going to be very much the same for the rest of the year. Now, we're all going to racetracks that Danny and I and Graham, we all certainly enjoy and we've had success at in the past. But that doesn't mean that we can neglect, one side of this, triangle of, car performance, team performance, and driver performance, so to say, at any given moment. We have to be on it all the time for every session, make the most of everything that we do and do it with good intention, or at least, um, with the effort of trying to learn something. So, uh, there's certainly no stopping from here. If anything, I think this is just motivation to continue working even harder for all of us.
So you look at all the travel that you've gone through during your career. A lot of times guys like to download movies. By chance, have you ever seen Groundhog Day with Bill Murray?
I have not. The amount of times that folks in racing are like, "Hey, have you seen this movie? Have you seen this movie?" Uh, it's a no, and I do get a very similar reaction. But I don't know, maybe it's like, the New Jersey in me, something like that. I can pretty much quote you all the Sopranos and all the Goodfellas, so maybe that counts for something. I don't know, but it's it's just the way it seems to go sometimes.
Well, the next time I'm up there visiting my adopted father down in Point Pleasant Beach, we're going to have to go on a run and hit all of the Soprano location
Oh
shoot
yeah,
spots
yeah.
because I see them all online. Like, oh, that would be a great, like Smoking the Bandit. I'd love to do that as well,
Mhm.
down in Georgia and go check out what they look like now compared to then. So I'll give you the ringer Van de Zandert because he had the same answer. He goes, Groundhog Day, explain this to me. And I was like, okay, it's Bill Murray. He relives the same day over and over and over again. So, what race would you love to live over again like you experienced it for the first time?
CTMP this weekend, right? Again, I've been very, very lucky throughout my time in IMSA specifically to have had successful races or races that are at least to me, very noteworthy and create a very lasting impression, long lasting impression. But this weekend at CTMP really solidified to me, not that there was ever any concern prior to or any doubt prior to, just how important it is that you work together and have the full faith in the team and the guys and gals that you have behind you, on the pit box, over the wall, back of the shop. Um, never experienced a um, real joining of heads and effort that led to that sort of result. So it's a special one. It's a special one for sure, and that is absolutely a day that I'll remember for a long time, just because of the roller coaster of that whole race, the emotional roller coaster of watching us drop to the back on lap one. Just the I don't want to even say we were unsure, but just the full commitment in our strategy by the guys on our pit box, and the associated emotions that come with that, and what it ultimately ended up being. It's a very special day.
So 14 or 15 Septembers ago, when you went down to DMV there at Jersey and you got your license, what was your first road car?
It was a Mazda 3 hatchback, and I actually took my road test in a it was a 6-speed manual, right? So I took my road test in that car, and I'm pretty sure I think I ran through stop signs, I ran through yield signs, whatever, because the driving instructor was so, like, fascinated at the fact that I was taking the test in a manual gearbox car, and I guess not many people did that up to that point, or at least the numbers were diminishing, and he was, like, fascinated with, like, wow, it's a 6-speed, it's not a 4 or a 5, whatever. And he just kept talking about the car, which I'm more than happy to do because I love that thing. It's a great little car. Um, but yeah, somehow skirted by, doing all these things, most likely wrong on my driving test, just because he was so fascinated with the fact that it was a manual. But good car. I miss that thing. Certainly do.
So when I did mine, we had through the driving school, it was about a 9 or 10-year-old powder blue Ford Maverick. And we walked up to it. I'm like, are you
Nice.
kidding?
Yeah.
Is this thing even safe? And
Probably
so
not.
we motored on through. I drove for about 20 minutes. He goes, you've been doing this for a while, haven't you?
Yeah.
I said, a little bit. I'm not saying I've done it illegally, but he goes, get in the back.
Yeah.
So,
Good
well,
deal.
good luck. Good luck, my friend, to the rest of the season
Thank
as you
you.
guys continue to chase more wins, and appreciate you stopping by and spending a little bit of time with us and telling some really cool stories that I think, folks at home that are watching and listening have an even greater appreciation of your progression and your level of success in IMSA WeatherTech sports car racing.
Well, it's certainly a team effort from all involved, family, friends, the race teams that I've been so lucky to work with. So appreciate you having me on here, Matt. And hopefully there's more race victories and memories to be made along the next 7 years, not just speaking about this previous 7 years. So also, next time you're up in New Jersey, you got to let me know. And we will go down to some of those restaurants and other areas and landmarks that you see in The Sopranos.
Absolutely. We'll have to hit Reds. Go down there and grab some shrimp.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, my friend. Safe travels, and we'll see you at Elkhart Lake.
Thank you, Matt.
For more cool IMSA content from our friends at the paddock, we have a lot of different landing spots for you. From This Week in Sports Cars to Double Stint Podcast and the Midweek Motorsports Podcast, all great shows loaded with entertaining and educating content. For everyone here at the IMSA Endurance Hour Podcast, I'm Matt Yocum. Thanks for riding along with us, and don't forget to subscribe. Tell us what you think, and we'll see you next time at the racetrack.